Hello, salespersons of all makes, models, and brands. My name is Chance, and thank you so much for tuning into this Objection episode on the Sales Bible. Today we're going to be taking a look at the classic objection, "That's not enough for my trade." Now, I know we've all heard this quite a bit. It is one of the most frustrating objections out there because in more ways than not, it is an insult to your capabilities as a salesperson and as a dealership at large, and we will get into that a little bit later on. It's probably my least favorite objection, but there's a lot of ways of dealing with it, so we'll address that in this episode. Now, let's take a look at your traditional Foursquare here and figure out exactly what's going on. So for this example, we're assuming they're okay with the price of the new vehicle. The problem is the trade value. They're okay with the amount down and they're okay with the payments as well. It's just that trade value. So typically the best way for a dealership to set a salesperson up is to use the 3 bids strategy. So a good way to preface this is by explaining that the way your dealership does trade values is they see primarily what other vehicles of a similar make, model, mileage are going for in the area, and they usually add a couple $100 onto that. You look at both the pre-owned market as well as the fleet and auction markets as well to get the most accurate numbers for their vehicle. So you can see it, bid 1 came in at $15,000, bid 2 came in at $14,500, and what we're offering you is $16,000, which is quite a jump, just to make sure we are able to earn your business today, sir. Now, ideally, the best way of dealing with this objection is to act preemptively. Now let's get into a couple tips on how to do that. Tip number 1, do not ask the customer what they believe their vehicle is valued at. They're always going to give you a ludicrous number because they're always going to have it in their head that you're going to scam them anyways because for whatever reason, customers are kind of silly like that. Secondly, make sure the appraisal form is filled out as much as possible. Include any cracks, any dents, any scratches, any mechanical faults that you're able to find on that sheet, and get your appraiser or used car manager or whoever does your appraisals to note how much that is going to cost to fully repair. And also, make sure they watch you do the silent walk around. Make sure they see you notice all the scrapes, all the scratches, and all the dents, because subconsciously it will let them know that their vehicle is not in perfect condition. Now that you've done all of those, before you negotiate, there's a couple things that you need to do just to guarantee the best result. First and foremost, remind the customer, you appraise vehicles every day. The value is determined by the local market, and that your dealership would not have such great reviews if they underpaid for trades. All of this is true, and all of this makes logical sense. Also, make sure you go over the appraisal with the customer. Review all of it top to finish. Ask how much above market value they were expecting to receive. This is, of course, after you present them with the numbers, right? And make sure you phrase it this way. It's very tempting to just say, and how much were you hoping to get, or how much were you expecting to get? No, how much above market value were you expecting to get, or were you expecting to receive? Either or works fine. Make sure you phrase the question in the way that is beneficial to you. Then ask how they arrived on that figure. If the difference is a small amount, remind them that it makes very little difference in their actual payments. Also, remind them of their tax credit. The tax credit, in case you're not fully aware, essentially comes from the fact that you don't pay GST on the trade. You pay GST on the difference between their trade-in and the value of the new vehicle, so you do save them a decent amount that way as well. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's 3 main ways this objection gets brought up, and we're going to go through 3 examples of the best approaches to disarm this objection and kind of make their point a little moot. So first and foremost is the classic, I saw it listed for more objection. This one is annoying because it just shows ignorance, but I'll explain how to explain it to the customer in a way where you're more educational than combative. And that's the key when it comes to handling most objections, by the way. Be the one to educate, don't be the one to dismiss and beat down. It's tempting to do it sometimes, but very rarely does it actually result in a sale, so if you're going to do so at your own risk. But typically the best way is something of the following. So once again, for this example, let's assume that you already got their ideal number out of them. Remember the whole how much above market value were you expecting us to give you? You've already gotten an answer to that question. So you reply with, how did you arrive at that value? My manager is sure to ask me. Then he'll say, I saw one advertised for more. And they'll say, oh, I understand. Most clients feel as though advertised prices should be a good indicator of value for their vehicle. However, when they put themselves in the position of the used car buyer, they find that the asking price is actually quite misleading. And then the customer will ask, how do you mean? And you'll reply, imagine if you were buying that used car. Would you offer the full amount, or would you offer considerably less? And then they'll take a moment and think about it, and then they'll immediately see the error in their ways, and then they'll say, I'd want a discount. And then you'll finish by saying, of course you would. And the seller knows that. That's why they typically list well above the actual market value. So you see that the inflated asking price in classified ads are usually not a reliable indicator of true values. And they'll be like, yeah, okay, fair point, I see. And they'll either keep objecting or they'll cave. But most people at this point logically understand that you're not trying to hose them or anything. It's just kind of the way it is. The next more common objection I see that typically leads to having an issue with trade is when they bought it for a ridiculous sum of money. You see this a lot in the domestic market. They just depreciate rapidly. This is also true for vehicles that have high fleet bases. Toyota is really bad for that. They fleet out a lot of vehicles, or vehicles that are found in a lot of auctions. It's rarer, but a lot of luxury vehicles can actually suffer from depreciation via auctions. It does happen. So typically, once again, we're going to assume that they've already given you their dream value, as it were. So you ask them again, how did you arrive on that value? My manager sure to ask me. I bought it for, I don't know, $20,000 more than that. Then you'll say, I understand. Many clients feel as though their previous value can be a good indicator of their current value. In your case, there happen to be several vehicles listed in our vicinity that are listed for comparable amounts to what we're offering you. And they'll usually come up with some crazy, wild point that it's usually an optional package or set of accessories. In this case, it's the XYZ package. So they'll usually say, well, mine has this, that, and the other. To be fair, it's an incredible vehicle. I'm certainly not denying that. We expect the additional options will reduce the amount of time the vehicle will spend on our lot. However, we must still price it competitively compared to other vehicles of similar make, model, and year. And that's true. That's honestly how it is 100% of the time. Because to be honest, there's no real way to search for those packages on most dealers' websites. So if they want to have a hope in hell in making a sale, they have to compare it against vehicles that don't have those extra chrome packages or different exhaust tips or what have you. Fact of the matter is it's very rare for those things to actually increase the true value of the vehicle. And then they'll say, I guess that makes sense. I just feel like it should be worth more than that. And you'll just politely say, I get where you're coming from. If the market would allow it, I'd give you the moon. Sadly, we need to be realistic with our expectations here. And that's true. You're running a business, not a charity. Make sure you understand that for yourself. Don't tell customers that naturally because it comes across as kind of jaded, but it's true. You're in it to make money. There's no shame in that. You're buying these cars with the intent to resell them, and you need to do so at a point that's profitable. And then the third objection you're kind of going to want to run into, this one is one of the easiest, so that's why it's third, is the third-party value objection. So once again, they give you their dream number. You ask, how did you arrive on that value? My manager's sure to ask me. And they'll say, well, the black book value is whatever. And then you'll lean back in your chair and be like, oh, I see. To be honest, that's close to what we'd price it at to maintain competitiveness. The biggest problem with most third-party values is they don't account for dealership expenses. In addition, the vast majority don't factor in the auction or the fleet markets, which is true. To the best of my knowledge, at least, I don't know of any third-party valuations that factor in the fleet and auction market. It's a hard thing to keep track of for an algorithm, and in all honesty, it's often overlooked by people as well. So just make sure you're well aware that it is your job to educate the customer on these things, and it makes logical sense that there shouldn't really be any disconnect. And they'll say, I guess that makes sense, I just feel like it should be worth more than that. And then you'll finish them up with, I get where you're coming from. Fact of the matter is, their business model isn't based on factoring in every detail. The vast majority of their income comes from ad revenue and selling your information, which is true, by the way. Like if you go on Auto Trader, Kelly Black Book, Kelly Blue Book, any of those guys, when you submit your vehicle information, on the bottom there'll be an ad that'll say, hey, if you want to get into something newer, we have a dealership that would love to buy your trade from you. That's how they generate leads, and they do charge dealerships for each lead. Also, you'll see a ton of advertising, you'll see a ton of articles they'll link to. It's just garbage, to be honest with you. A lot of older people still trust them as sources, and they do provide very loose ballpark figures to a degree. It kind of depends. I don't know. I've seen Kelly Black Book in particular do a lot of really weird things, so I'm a little bit hesitant to give it any more credibility than saying it's an okay place to find rough subjective values on your vehicle, assuming there's a high demand for your vehicle and assuming it's in good shape. It's kind of tricky. I'd always subtract dealership expenses from that total just to make it a little bit more realistic. But it's kind of a weird website in a lot of ways. I just don't like the way they market themselves. It's just a little disingenuous, if you ask me. In any case, these are the three main trade objections you're going to handle, and this is the best ways I've figured of dealing with all of them. If you have any ideas, if you have any word tricks you like using, please put them down in the comment section beneath. I really appreciate it, and I'm just curious to see what you guys can come up with. To be fair, I'm always open to learning new things, so if yours is good enough, I might do a video on it in the future. That being said, I hope you have a great day, and as always, happy selling.